Welcome to the Aquarius podcast. Today, we're going to explore the full moon in Cancer. The upcoming full moon in Cancer is the first major moon event of 2026. So, for it to be in the sign of Cancer is a good omen for healing because Jupiter is currently in Cancer. As you know, Jupiter is associated with zodiac sign Sagittarius, and Sagittarius is associated with Chiron, which is our deepest wound in astrology. The full moon in Cancer, also known as the wolf moon, is occurring on January 3rd at approximately 5:02 a.m. in Eastern Time here in the US. According to NASA, it is a spectacular supermoon close to perigee, which can be about 30% brighter and 14% larger than the smallest full moon of the year. So this is going to be a beautiful and radiant cosmic event. The moon in astrology has a profound spiritual significance. This is why I tend to steer away from sun sign and focus more on moon signs, because the moon represents our inner self, our intuition, our emotional intelligence. It is the cyclical nature of life. It shows us that nothing about life is linear. Everything happens in cycles, and sometimes that cycle gets disrupted with endings, so new ones can develop. And all of that is natural and normal. Unlike the sun, which governs our ego, our identity, our drive, our confidence, our conscious purpose, the moon in astrology governs what's hidden, the subconscious, our emotional strength, our emotional body, our emotional landscape, linking us to spiritual growth in subtle but deeply transformative ways. What's more powerful isn't always obvious. The moon in astrology is the bridge between the spiritual realm and the physical realm. So when we honor the cycles of the moon, we're observing our own emotional patterns, we're embracing our vulnerability, and we're cultivating a sense of inner knowing, inner wisdom, a sense of compassion that comes along with choosing to align with our soul's path as opposed to forcing our way through life. So today, what we're going to do is go over the spiritual meaning of the moon in astrology in more details. Once we're done with that, we're going to move on to talk about the aspects of the full moon transit. From there, I will offer you some confessions and affirmations to carry with you over the next couple of weeks. I will also offer you some emotionally intelligent practices to help you ground this energy. And we're going to wrap our conversation up with some action steps and insights that you can carry with you. So let's go ahead and start by talking about the moon and why I'm so obsessed with the moon and why a lot of my practice focuses on the relationship with the moon. You see, the moon is the mother. In the world of psychology, many of us know Sigmund Freud being one of the thought leaders in the field. And Freud had a lot of theories, and many of them centered around the relationship with the mother. Although he was not an astrologer, he understood that everything about us started with our moms. Oftentimes, moms don't like to hear this because they feel the heavy burden of the responsibility of how children turn out. But I want to bring to light that this isn't to say that everything good or bad that your child does is your responsibility. What I want you to understand is that being a mother is being a creator of the blueprint of a soul. This is why motherhood is very special. You were chosen to carry a human life for 10 months before anyone else saw or felt this life. That is very powerful energy. So let's talk about 6 qualities of the moon in astrology that make it extremely powerful. In astrology, the moon governs the psyche, the emotional core, our instincts, and our habitual patterns. Spiritually, it's about our subconscious mind, the part of us that stores our memories, our emotional patterns, early attachments from childhood, and our ancestors. Zodiac sign Cancer, wherever you may have it, carries a lot of ancestral wisdom with it. The moon teaches us that true spiritual work involves recognizing and integrating our emotional patterns. It's not about pretending to not have feelings, and it's not about shutting feelings down. It's about understanding and using our feelings. The moon in Cancer is going to illuminate where we feel safe, nurtured, and emotionally tuned in, which is foundational work that our mothers should have taught all of us. There is no emotional and spiritual maturity without an understanding of yourself as an emotional body. Okay? Emotional awareness is the gateway to your soul's evolution on earth. This is why life is about love. When your mother carried you, it's because she loved you. I understand that sometimes mothers become abusive or are abusive while they're carrying you. What I'm speaking of is the fact that she provided you with shelter inside of her body, inside of her belly, and that shelter was an act of love. Okay? The moon in astrology represents the feminine archetype. The sun is the masculine. The moon is the feminine. The moon symbolizes feminine principles such as intuition. We call it female intuition for a reason, right? There's no such thing as male intuition. It's because women can sense things. All of us have the ability to sense truth that have not yet been spoken to us out loud. That's intuition. Another female quality that is very present with people who have dominant Cancer energy is receptivity. This is how Cancer is able to quickly pick up on your energy, understand your energy, understand your vulnerabilities, understand your weaknesses, and understand the parts of you that need love, that need healing, that need comforting. Nurturing is a huge aspect of the female archetype. When I meet women who don't have nurturing energy, I always know it's because their mothers did not nurture them. And because their mothers did not nurture them, they never took the time to nurture themselves. So as a result of that break, that violation, which really, it is a spiritual violation for a mother to not nurture her child. So as a result of that violation, these women show up in the world in a very masculine energy. And that is the only energy they're comfortable in, one that is dominant and that is aggressive. Feminine energy at its best is receptive. She does not chase, she attracts. This archetype, although is feminine, it's not gender specific in the sense that men can also be in their feminine energy primarily. It is about consciousness. It's really a principle of consciousness. The ability to receive is feminine. The ability to reflect on your behavior is feminine. The ability to process life within is feminine. A man can do this. A woman can do this. This is why some men are excellent therapists, excellent psychologists, because of this nurturing energy. Some women are too. And the opposite is also true for both of them, okay? So when I'm talking about gender, I need you to know that there's some elements that are physical and some elements that are energetic. Working with the moon energy develops sensitivity, empathy, spiritual receptivity, which is essential for transcending ego. We are all here to transcend ego-driven behavior. Another aspect of the moon that makes it very special is that the moon is about cycles. It's about time and it's about your life's rhythm. The moon governs the monthly lunar phases. It governs the tidal forces. It governs the emotional rhythm. Spiritually, it reminds us that life is inherently cyclical. Growth, release, culmination, and renewal are all part of the human experience. The full moon brings illumination and awareness, often forcing confrontation with some hidden truths. The new moon initiates new emotional and spiritual seeds in our world. The key spiritual lesson with this Cancer full moon is to align with the lunar cycles. And in doing so, we're basically accepting that nothing is permanent. And we're accepting that patience is part of the journey. We're accepting that flow, the flow of life itself, which is essential for emotional and spiritual balance. None of us are the almighty. All of us are here to work with the energies that are present on earth. And to be able to do that, we have to be able to hear it and feel it and recognize it. Moving on to number 4, the moon is a vehicle for intuition and inner guidance. In astrology, the moon rules the subconscious mind. It rules our family history. It rules our memory, our instincts, our receptivity to unseen forces and influences. Spiritually, it functions as an internal compass, showing us what our soul needs. The moon guides us towards our authentic emotional expression, and it reveals to us where we're spiritually aligned or misaligned. By observing our dreams, by observing our emotional responses, by observing our subtle intuitive signals, we can access deeper layers of spiritual wisdom that have not yet been overtly stated. And that is the beauty of the moon. Because mothers can read a room without being shown a map. Because mothers are very tuned into their little ones. And in the beginning of the relationship between a mother and their little one, there is no language except cries. Mothers are very good at understanding. I'm getting emotional as I'm talking about this because when you think about it, it's truly magical. It's truly magical that you can live your whole life speaking one language and you get pregnant and you give birth to a child. And that child does not speak your language. They only speak the language of cries. And because you love them so much, you become very good at understanding the different cries. Do you know how remarkable that is? That a mother can tell whether you're crying because you're hungry or you're crying because you need to be changed because you wet your diaper, or whether you're crying because you pooped, or whether you're crying because you're uncomfortable. There's so many different types of cries that babies cry that mothers know. And the older kids get, mothers forget. But this is all primal. This is all primal energy in the beginning of the journey because their survival depends on you. So as a result, you become good at understanding nonverbal and verbal cues. Motherhood is truly a gift. Via this process itself, your own emotions further develop. Moving on to number 5, emotional healing and spiritual integration. The moon highlights habitual emotional reactions. It also highlights unresolved trauma and unhealthy attachment patterns. Spiritually, if you are dominated by the moon in your astrology natal chart, you're being called to integrate your shadow emotions with your conscious awareness rather than projecting your insecurities and your fears and your traumas onto others or repressing them and pretending they're not there altogether. Healing moon energy is not only psychological, but it's also deeply spiritual because it balances the mind, the body, and the soul. And what brings it all together is emotional intelligence. What happens is our consciousness increases. We become wiser by simply knowing what is true because we can feel it. Lastly, number 6, the moon is a bridge between the material and the spiritual world. Unlike the sun, which is the ego, which is the drive, which is the purpose, the moon connects the soul to everyday life through emotions. Because in every breath that we take, there is an emotion. It brings awareness to everything that we do. It brings mindfulness to a very fast paced world. The moon connects us to our instincts, to our rhythms, to our inner truth. Spiritually, this bridge allows us to transform mundane and ordinary moments into deep emotional experiences that bring with it a lot of spiritual wisdom. The moon teaches emotional attunement, emotional vulnerability. It makes us embrace self-care to protect our emotional sensitivity. It teaches us to respect our emotional honesty. Emotions are not a weakness. Emotions are power. That's where all the power is. It's not in your might. It's in your awareness. It's in your spiritual practice. The core spiritual truth about the moon in astrology is that it represents your soul's emotional landscape, your intuition, what your intuition can do, the capacity to develop your intuition, your faculties when it comes to the non-tangible, your capacity for integrating what you're experiencing in the physical realm with what's being hidden from you in the spiritual realm. That is the power of the moon. In fact, that is what motivated me to start this podcast, because I wanted my followers to understand the rhythm of life as it is unfolding. Now that you understand how powerful your connection to the moon is, which is really a representation of your connection to your mother, let's talk about the emotional landscape of this upcoming full moon in Cancer. I want you to know that the emotions are going to be heightened and intimate. The moon in Cancer illuminates our need for security, for nurturing, for emotional safety, especially around family, tradition, home, and close and intimate relationships. At the same time, we're having a Capricorn stellium. So we have Capricorn currently at the Sun, at Mercury, at Venus, and Mars. When we're having a full moon, I want you to remember that the moon only reflects the energy of the sun. So, what you're going to be seeing on the 3rd is the sun in Capricorn at nighttime in the darkness. Okay? So, this Capricorn heavy energy we're having right now is going to activate certain themes around ambition, responsibility, structure. You may feel torn between what feels safe, which is home, Cancer, and what needs to get done, which is Capricorn, community. There is an inner tension here within and also in our relationships, because these oppositions between the moon and the Capricorn planets are going to create emotional friction. So what's going to be happening is a revelation, really, a revelation of our patterns, of our codependency, of our control issues, of areas where we overextend ourselves for the sake of productivity and neglect our sensitivity. You may notice some impatience in relationships, difficulty with prioritizing your personal needs, or the pull between your instincts and your responsibilities. This moon phase is asking you to refine, to consolidate, and to trust, not me, but yourself. This full moon in Cancer is asking you to trust what you feel, to trust your emotional world, and to trust your practical efforts. The retrograde with Jupiter in Cancer is encouraging an internal review of how we've been feeling. It's like an emotional recalibration. With Saturn and Neptune in Pisces, along with the retrograde in North Node, there's a karmic element here. There are karmic lessons that need to be learned, spiritual lessons that need to be learned, especially with this heavy Capricorn energy. This is definitely all about emotional maturity. In short, it's time for us to grow up. Here are some awareness prompts to help facilitate that process for you. What emotional habits am I clinging to out of fear? Where am I projecting desire or control onto others? How can I balance my need for security with my responsibilities and ambitions? Life is all about balance. Now, let's move on to some aspects analysis involved with this moon. So, the moon is in opposition to the sun. That naturally brings tension between emotional needs and tangible conscious goals. This is calling you to recognize some reactive patterns when you feel pulled in opposite directions. Here's a question: how do you honor both your feelings and your responsibilities? That is what this full moon in Cancer is calling you to. Okay? Moving on to the moon being opposite Venus, because Capricorn is also at Venus, emotional sensitivity is going to clash with relationship expectations. There's a desire here to feel nurtured, and that need for nurturing may conflict with the need for responsibility, the need for loyalty, the need for being pragmatic, the need for long-term planning. One reflection cue you can process right now is, where am I idealizing others instead of accepting reality as it is? So, how people make you feel is how they feel about you in that moment. Accepting the truth of the emotions that they give to you is going to take you much further than trying to make them into somebody that they're not. Moving on to the moon being in opposition to Mars may provoke impulsive actions or even defensiveness. Awareness of triggers allow energy to be redirected constructively. The reflection cue here is, what action is driven by fear versus conscious choice? Are you living life out of fear? Are you making most of your life decisions out of fear, or are you making them out of a conscious desire to align with what feels right for you? This opposition is asking you to go deeper into what motivates you. Moon conjunct Jupiter amplifies emotional insight. This is where we're getting a lot of luck, because we're being asked to run the tape of how we did 2025, emotionally, how we showed up in 2025. We're being encouraged to reflect on our past emotional decisions, the way we showed up in our family dynamics. How proud are we of how we showed up? What changes do we need to make? One reflection cue here is, which patterns am I ready to release for long-term emotional growth? We also have Moon trine North Node. This is supporting our karmic alignment. It's supporting our karmic emotional leaning. We're here to move towards empathy, towards emotional flow. Virgo's in the South Node right now. This is not a time for control. This is a time for release. This is a time for accepting what is. This is a time for compassion, for love, for sensitivity. This is one love energy. This is about peace. This is about integration. This is about giving grace. This is about forgiveness. Pisces energy is about all of those things. So we're being brought into spiritual alignment with our karmic purpose under this full moon in Cancer. Moon trine, ascendant, and sextile is enhancing our emotional authenticity, our relational resonance. It's expressing our need for honoring other people's boundaries. If we've struggled with that in the past, this full moon in Cancer is asking us to think about it. Moon sextile, part of fortune, is bringing emotional alignment with purpose. It's possible to align your soul's purpose with what feels right for you. I don't know what you've been taught. I don't know who raised you or what messages they gave you. But whatever you came to this earth to do, it requires that you feel good about it. Feeling good is very important. You're not just here to suffer, you're here to feel good. It doesn't mean you don't have to do difficult things, but you don't have to feel like you're betraying yourself to get through this life. So when you're making decisions, they should feel in harmony with what feels right for you. And that's what Cancer energy is about. Mothers don't betray their children. That is a violation of the spiritual contract. A mother does things to help her child, even when the child is doing the wrong thing. The punishment or the consequence or the feedback that she gives is always appropriate for the situation. She doesn't take that moment and cover the child's entire life with that singular moment, because fairness is very important to Capricorn. Balance is very important to Capricorn, and that's what karma is about. This full moon transit is deeply karmic because of the Capricorn stellium energy and also with the alignment with the North Node. So now let's go into some house-specific confessions and affirmations to assist you with making the most of this full moon transit. For Aries rising, the full moon in Cancer illuminates the fourth house, the house of the home, family, emotional foundation. The confession, I fear that showing my emotions will weaken my identity. The affirmation, I can embrace my emotions without losing my strength. Vulnerability is, in fact, part of my authentic self. Taurus rising, the Cancer full moon illuminates your third house, the house of communication, relationship with siblings, as well as learning and data analysis. The confession is, I rely on possessions or stability to feel loved. The affirmation, emotional and material security can coexist. I nurture my inner foundation first. Gemini rising, the Cancer full moon illuminates your second house, which is the house of money and self-worth. The confession, I avoid emotional depth in matters of security. The affirmation, I honor my feelings and recognize my intrinsic value beyond possessions. Cancer rising, the Cancer full moon falls in your first house. The confession, I have neglected my own needs to take care of others. The affirmations, I'm allowed to prioritize my emotional well-being. My care for others starts with my self-care. Okay? Leo rising, for you, this falls in the 12th house, which is the house of subconscious hidden patterns. The confession, I fear that my emotions will sabotage my image or my creativity. The affirmation is, emotional depth fuels my creativity. I can express feelings courageously. Virgo rising, for you, this Cancer full moon falls in the 11th house, which is the house of community, the house of friendship and ideals, as well as values. The confession is, I suppress my emotions to stay efficient and practical. The affirmation, I can honor my emotional needs while contributing to my community. Libra rising, for you, this Cancer full moon falls in the 10th house, the house of career and public image. The confession is, I hide my vulnerability to appear competent and respected. The affirmation is, acknowledging my emotions strengthens my professional and public presence. Scorpio rising, for you, this falls in the 9th house, the house of beliefs, travels, philosophy, spirituality. The confession is, I avoid emotional honesty to protect my worldview. The affirmation is, I integrate emotions and intellect. Inner clarity expands my understanding of life. Sagittarius rising, for you, this falls in the 8th house, the house of shared resources, transformation, death, and rebirth. The confession is, I fear deep emotional entanglements in intimacy or relational matters. The affirmation is, trust and emotional honesty transform my connections and resources. Capricorn rising, for you, this falls in the 7th house, the house of marriage, partnership, and close relationships and business. The confession is, I suppress vulnerability in intimate relationships so I can keep control. The affirmation, I can maintain strength and boundaries while embracing emotional honesty. Aquarius rising, for you, this falls in the 6th house, the house of work, daily routine, and health. The confession is, I distance myself emotionally to stay independent, even when I need support. The affirmation is, I can balance individuality with social connections while honoring my emotional needs in my day-to-day life. Moving on to Pisces rising. Pisces rising, for you, this full moon in Cancer illuminates your 5th house, which is the house of joy, romance, creativity, and pleasures. The confession is, I hide emotions and avoid joy out of fear of vulnerability. The affirmation, I embrace emotional playfulness and creative expression as part of my healing journey. Now let's talk about some emotional practices that can be helpful in managing this transit. Number 1, I would recommend you do an emotional inventory, and that requires naming the thing. Okay. So we're going to sit quietly with our journal. We're going to reflect on what's happened in 2025. We're going to identify moments that triggered strong emotions around home, family, and our self care. I want you to write down, what did you feel? Where in your body did you feel it? And why did you feel it? The reason why this works is because naming our feelings gives them structure. It allows the brain to understand and regulate the emotional response. It transforms the lingering vague anxiety or grief or tension into manageable insight, Capricorn like structure. So, this being a dominant Capricorn transit requires that we look for pattern around attachment, around safety, around emotional needs. As an example, I feel anxious when my family ignores my needs, or I feel guilty about prioritizing myself before taking care of others. These are truths that you need to bring to light about yourself so that you're better equipped to manage them as opposed to just reacting to them without even knowing where they're coming from. So I just gave you those two examples. They're not about me personally, but I'm sure a lot of people can resonate with those truths. Okay. Moving on to the second thing you can do in terms of action item or practices that can help you with this Cancer full moon transit. Compassionate boundary setting. Okay. I want you to identify one emotional or relational boundary that you've been avoiding, perhaps with a family member, with your spouse, or even with yourself. So use this Cancer full moon energy to affirm and communicate your limits, your emotional limits, gently but clearly. Okay. As an example, I need 30 minutes of quiet time each evening to process my day. That's a boundary. You can communicate that to a spouse. That way, they do not interrupt that quiet time. I want you to get in the habit of visualizing your energy as protective. Your energy should have a barrier around it. It's a barrier that lets in love and it blocks out emotional exhaustion. Just because people want to interact with you doesn't mean they're coming with love. It doesn't mean that they have love to give. People who come towards you without love are looking to take something from you, and that's your love. They want to bring no love and want you to give them love. I want you to become better at keeping your emotional boundaries in place so only love is allowed in and out of your system. That's what we mean by compassionate boundary setting. Emotional intelligence isn't just understanding emotions, it's regulating them in interactions. And boundaries prevent reactive behavior that cultivate respect for your emotional landscape. Cancer people have a lot of nurturing energy that people like to abuse. It's upon that Cancer person's responsibility to determine who deserves it and who doesn't. This Cancer full moon is going to bring the focus back to home. Family patterns often push or drain our emotional energy. Just because you're related to somebody doesn't mean they have the right to deplete you. Setting compassionate boundaries can heal relationships in the long run as well. Number 3, moonlight emotional release ritual. So, under the full moon, you can find a quiet and safe space, preferably near a window or outside. And I want you to sit with your emotions. Let them surface. Let them reveal themselves to you. Let them release themselves through tears. Whatever it is you're feeling, all of it is okay. Go ahead and journal about it. You can draw a picture about it, or you can talk to yourself about it. You can write down feelings that you're having, old emotional patterns that you want to release, and then you can symbolically release it. You can symbolically, put it down in a piece of paper and just release it in water and let it float away from you. Physicalizing emotional release aligns with the limbic system, okay? It aligns with our brain. It aligns with our prefrontal cortex, which is where our awareness lies. The limbic system is our emotions. The prefrontal cortex is our awareness. It gives us a sense of control and closure to bring awareness to our emotions. This Cancer full moon is focusing on our emotional security, our inner child wounds, our mother wound, our familial pattern. Here are 3 examples of intentions that you can set under this Cancer full moon. Number 1, I release the fear of not being cared for. You can take care of yourself. You don't need to be afraid anymore. You don't need mommy to do it for you anymore. You can do it. Okay? Number 2, I release guilt over setting boundaries. It's okay to say no. That's what boundaries are. Not everything can be a yes. If everything is a yes, you will get abused in this world. Okay? Number 3, I release fear of not feeling safe in the world. When you grow up in the chaotic home environment, it's very easy to take that survival energy all over the world. But I need you to get serious about what's actually happening in your life right now. What's going on in your life right now that aligns with the energy of chaos? If the answer is nothing, and if your home life for right now feels safe, then clearly this is residue from childhood trauma that you're still carrying with you. And it may be time to let it go. To summarize, under this full moon in Cancer, we want to take an inventory, we want to set a boundary, and we want to release what no longer aligns. This creates a full emotional intelligence cycle of awareness, regulation, release, and healing. Now, let's go ahead and wrap up our podcast today with some action steps. So, this transit is encouraging you to integrate your instincts, which is what you're feeling inside, with strategy. So, we're looking to balance out our heart with our work. It's the balance between the home and the public life, the balance between the emotions and the ambition. This full moon is going to expose your shadows, your desires, your vulnerabilities. And it's not to shame you, it's to bring you into harmony. Oppositions expose fear. They expose lies. And lies aren't necessarily like ill-intended. Sometimes they're just a byproduct of our idealization. I was having a therapy session the other day with my therapist when we were talking about my relationship with my parents. And I realized that I've been idealizing my father in the way that I have not been idealizing my mother. Because when you're a mom, you get judged very harshly. When you're a dad, you get more kudos, you get more passes. You do the bare minimum and everybody's like, yay, you did the best. And I'm not saying my dad did the bare minimum. What I'm saying is it's very hard for me to see darkness in my dad, to see like blind spots with my dad because I idealized him as a child. He made me feel like my feelings mattered and he made me feel very special and very important. And even though I'm a grown woman now, those experiences left an imprint on me that made me believe that he was like the Almighty in some regards, that he was perfect and beautiful and amazing and I couldn't ask for better. But in reality, growing up in the cult, certainly put boundaries around our love relationship because when I came out as gay, my relationship with them had to kind of take a back seat to what the cult decided was appropriate. But I refused for the longest time to stop idealizing him because logically I understood that he did what he had to do because of the decision he made to join the cult before I could even comprehend, because my parents joined this cult when, I was an infant. Like they actually did this shortly after I was born. So what I'm bringing to light for you is that sometimes the lies we tell ourselves about the people in our lives, they don't always have to come from mean-spirited places. Sometimes they come from love. You love them so much, you don't want to see the darkness. You love them so much, you don't want to accept what is true. These retrogrades that are happening right now of, Cancer, Jupiter in Cancer retrograde, North Node in Pisces retrograde, Uranus in Taurus retrograde. All of these retrogrades are calling us back to analysis, to review, to the truth of what really happened. These retrogrades are calling for inner reflection, rather than outer action. A full moon is never the time to start something new. It's the time to assess, to review, to file, to open the file, review the data before you refile it. Okay? So, practical steps to take. Journal. Journal about emotional conflict between security and responsibility. Identify one area of home, work, or relationship where you need to apply some disciplined compassion. Love without boundaries is always a setup for abuse. Always. Because everything needs boundaries. Schedule some introspective or spiritual practices that help keep you grounded. This is where water signs struggle the most because many of them have awful boundaries because, water absorbs everything. Water signs, when anything touches water, it becomes it, right? That's what I mean by awful boundaries. The element itself doesn't have structure. It takes the structure of whatever you put it in. You put it in the bottle, it takes that shape. You put it in the bucket, it takes that shape. It's highly malleable, which is beautiful for healing, but it's not beautiful for day-to-day life. Okay? In day-to-day life, we have to apply structure. And that's where Capricorn is opposite of the mother. Capricorn is the father of the zodiac. Cancer is the mother of the zodiac. We have to apply discipline, compassion to all of our relationships. And that includes our work and our relationship with ourselves. So schedule some time to set those boundaries, okay? And that means meditating, praying, creative reflection, journaling. All of these activities, they signal to you that you're worth the time. You're worth the time. You're worth the emotional awareness. You're worth the emotional discourse. It's about integrating subtle emotional cues into a practice that allow you to stay grounded in your daily reality. Okay? Trust your instincts. Honor your commitments. Let your emotional insights guide your practical choices. When you live life from the inside out, what you get in return for your commitment to that process is resilience. You get relational intelligence. You get long-term emotional fulfillment because you are prioritizing safety, emotional safety. You cannot go wrong when you prioritize emotional safety. Our next moon transit is going to be a new moon in Capricorn. So this balance of the mother and the father is starting January off strong for 2026. So we're going to get it one way or the other, okay? At least that's the message I'm getting. All right. So thanks so much for listening. Thanks for coming to hang out with me. I wish you the courage to let go of what no longer aligns with you, whether that be people, place, situation, or a mindset, whatever is keeping you living in fear and in this doubt. I hope you're able to face your fears so that you can step into your full power. I'll reconnect with you on January 18th, depending on where you're located in the world, for the new moon in Capricorn. Happy full moon in Cancer. You can book your astrology reading at intuitivehealing.com. You can also watch videos at Intuitive Healing here on YouTube for Astrology 101 content. Listen to the Aquarius podcast on Spotify, as well as here on YouTube for your horoscope. If you're interested in astrology and love connections, you can visit at Styled Under Libra. And of course, for health and wellness and holistic healing, visit at Styled Under Virgo for all of your astrology content. Thanks so much for watching.